boys and girls, this is Mrs. Pope, and we are back for day 2 of 1-point perspective city drawing. Last class time, we did a few practices. Today, we are going to start our final copy. So I'm going to show you again an example of a final copy. We're not going to focus necessarily on the background today. We're going to talk about color another day. But today, what we are going to focus on is getting all of our buildings drawn and also using the black marker to color in all of these sides of our building. So the first step in doing that, hopefully everybody remembers, is that vanishing point. So please use a pencil because remember we will be erasing some of those lines to cut off our buildings. We don't want them to last forever and ever and ever all the way into the sky. So that vanishing point we're going to place in the middle of our paper, and from there we are going to draw our buildings. Today I am going to go a little bit faster since we already did a practice last class time. I'm hoping that you will remember most of the steps for today. So to start our buildings, we are going to start off with those triangles that will represent the front faces of our buildings. I would like you to create about maybe 3 to 5 buildings on the bottom part and also 3 to 5 at the top part. And what I mean by that, the bottom and the top part, is if we look at that final copy again, we have some buildings right here at the bottom of the page and some buildings at the top. So on this one I did 3 and 4. So I'd like you to try to do 3 to 5 on each side. I'll let you decide the exact number. So we're going to start off with all of those triangles. If you would like to try attaching some of the buildings together to give it a little bit of a different effect and appearance, please do so. In fact, that's what I'm going to do right here. So in order to make it look like I have a couple of buildings attached together, we are going to share one line. So I have the front of this building ready to go, the front of this one, and since I want a building to be attached to this one, we're going to share this line right here. So I'm simply going to add one more line, and the center line will be shared between both buildings. So we're going to start with the bottom ones first, and then we'll do the same thing to the top. So now that I have those buildings drawn, we're going to cut them off. And if you remember, when we cut them off, when we cut the top of the building off, it needs to match and be parallel to the bottom edge of that paper. So I'm going to put my folder that I'm using as a line about where I would like some buildings to be cut off. So I'm going to cut off the first one first. I'm starting on one side, going all the way across to the next, erasing the leftover line so I can get a better idea of the overall size and height of each building on how I would like the next one to go. So this one right here, I'm actually thinking about making that one probably my tallest building and cutting that one off, and then the one next to it I want to make it much shorter to show some pretty dramatic height difference. So I'm going to come way down here and cut off my last building, but remember they're sharing this line. So I'm going to start at that center line and go all the way across to the edge, and now I need to erase my leftover marks. So I'm going to start erasing my first one right here. And I'm going to have to be very careful not to erase this line. I know that this line continues to create right here, but it also represents this side of the building. So you don't want to erase that side of the building. So we're going to leave it right there. And I will erase the rest of this side. And then we are going to continue on and create our sides of our buildings. So you need to decide where you want those sides of the buildings to be. And again, I like to kind of figure out where I'm going to be standing or where I want the viewer to stand, and then that's where I make the sides of the buildings. So I like to pretend like I'm standing kind of in between some buildings and some edges, and I did the same thing on this one. So you can see the inside part or the side of this building as well as this one. And in order to do that, somebody has to be standing right around here. And if I'm standing right around here looking across the street, I would be able to see the same insides of the other two buildings. So if that is what I'm going to do again, I need to create an inside edge here and an inside edge here. So this one right here, I'll make a little bit wider. And remember, I'm going to that vanishing point, drawing a line all the way down. And I'm going to do the same thing to this building. And this one right here, I kind of want to make that a nice skinny edge, skinny side. So then I have a little bit of a difference between the two buildings. So again, I'm going to start at that vanishing point and draw my line down. This one will not have the side of it being seen because the side of it is attached to this building right here. So this one is completely done as of right now until we add the details to the front of that building. So the next step is going to be adding that L or 7 cutoff. Remember that when we cut the building off, this line right here needs to be parallel to the bottom edge. And our next line needs to be pretty much straight up and down, creating that 90-degree angle that the top edges of buildings have. So even though it might look a little weird to us when we're cutting off that building, if we don't make it a perfect 90-degree angle or close to a 90-degree angle, it is going to look off. And this building is going to look a little weird because we have to keep going and drawing that line all the way until we meet the other side of the building, which is way down here. And you might be thinking, wow, that is wrong. I must have done something. But it is correct. So we are drawing that 90-degree angle. That is our backward 7. We can erase the rest of that line. And this right here is where the two meet. Because remember, we did this building pretty wide. So right here, you can actually see kind of how wide that building is. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to create that L or 7. Make sure that that line is straight up and down. When we cut it off, this one you'll be able to see it a little bit more clear because we made the building a little bit more skinny. And then I can erase the rest of the line. So I have my bottom 3, and the rule was to have 3 to 5 on the bottom and 3 to 5 on the top. So since I have 3 here, I am good to go on the bottom, and now let's do the other side. When you do the other side, it might be much easier for you to actually flip and turn your paper around. And when you flip and turn your paper around, these buildings are now looking upside down, and these ones you can draw from the bottom up as if you are standing down here. So this might be a little bit easier on you if you flip your paper around. So now we're going to do the same thing to this side, and I want you again to have 3 to 5 buildings, which means we're going to start off with 3 to 5 of those triangle shapes. So we're going to start at the same vanishing point. We're just doing the opposite side. I'm going to draw these ones a little bit faster. Again, I'm going to have a couple of them share the same line. In fact, I think I'm going to have 3 in a row sharing the same line. So these 3 buildings right here, I'm going to have connected together, but they still count as 3 separate buildings. And then this one right here will make my 4th. So now I need to start deciding where I want these buildings cut off at. So I'm going to do something a little bit different on these 3 to show you how to create it if you have one building on the edge that is tall, one building in the middle that's shorter, and then a taller one again. So this is going to get a little bit trickier right here. So now that I have those drawn, we're going to go ahead and erase the leftover lines. Be very careful when you are drawing buildings together that you don't accidentally erase the edge of one of your other buildings, because remember, those buildings are sharing some lines. It can be very easy to accidentally erase the wrong line. And then this building right here is standing alone, so I'm just going to decide where to cut it off, and I think I want this one to be a little bit shorter. And then I erase all of those lines. And now we're going to draw the edges and sides of the buildings. So again, I'm standing right about here, just like I was over there. So I'm going to see all the sides of this one and these over here. And then I'm going to see the side of this one. So I'm going to start here. and decide where I want that edge of that building to be, and I'm going to draw my line. And the same thing here. Decide where I want the edge of that building to be and draw my line. Now I'm going to draw my 7 cutoff. So I'm going to have my paper perfectly straight up and down, right? Oops, sorry about that. Perfectly straight up and down. I'm going to cut off this one first, perfectly straight up and down, bring it over until I just see that little vertice, that little edge, and there's the cutoff on that one. Again, this right here is perfectly straight up and down. I erase the rest, so I have that one building done and ready for details, or ready to go ahead and trace and add the black to it. So this building right here, now I need to cut it off. So I need to make this line connect to this one right here. But since it's perfectly in front of this right here, this cutoff is going to be really close. I'm not even sure if we're even going to really see that side of the building. And you know what? We are not. If I have my ruler right here, and I'm drawing this right here, because I drew this line almost perfectly even up and down with that. If I was to draw it this way, there's no way for me to connect this to this edge. So I don't even see that side of that building. So we're going to go ahead and erase that line. And sometimes that happens, and that is okay. Don't second guess it. If that L does not work, if it goes more into the building like this, that means you don't actually see that side of the building. One thing that you will see is actually this side of the building, because the fronts of them connect. But since this building is shorter, you will actually see part of the side of that building. So I'm going to decide how deep I want that building to be, the depth of it and distance, and I want it to be about right there. And I'm not going to draw my line all the way through this building, because that building is not see-through. I'm going to start my line at my vertice, draw it down until it hits the building. And now I'm going to cut my cutoff, my little 7 or L from the corner down, and I erase the rest. So we do see a little sliver of this part of the building, even though they're connected, because that middle building is shorter. But we do not see any of this side because of where we are standing. And sometimes that happens, and it's okay. Don't second guess it. Try that L cutoff. If that L and 7 cutoff goes through the building, then you don't draw it. From here, before we start adding the details, let's go ahead and trace those lines. And remember, I want you to use that ruler to trace those lines and color in that shading. I'm only going to do this one building section with you, then I'm going to have you complete the rest on your own, because I want to show you with that shading of the building, just in case that throws any of you off. So remember, we are drawing this little bitty line because that is the side of that building. We need to make sure we stop it before we get to the next building. We have this itty bitty line. All right, and now we're going to color the side of our building in solid, which means we are going to color this little sliver in solid. And remember, this is your final copy, so I do want you to use the color black to color those in. If you don't have a marker, that is perfectly fine. Use a crayon, colored pencil, whatever you have available, but I do want it to be solid black to represent the shadow. And it will also make the rest of your buildings, the colors that you choose, pop really nicely when we start adding the color next class time during this video. And then we're also going to color in this side nice and solid. Try to stay inside those lines. We want nice, clean, crisp lines on our buildings. All right, I'm going to have you continue the rest of this on your own. I do want you to double check and make sure you do have 3 to 5 buildings per aside, and you do have them all traced with black, either a black marker, a black crayon or a black colored pencil is fine. And the sides of your buildings are colored nice and solid. And next class time or next video, we will start talking about adding detail and color. Can't wait to see your final product.